I am Elon Musk, CEO/CTO of a rocket company. Ask me anything. Europa. Attempts no landing there. True or false? There should definitely be a science mission to Europa. What daily habit do you believe has the largest impact on your life? Showering. Hi Elon, a friend of mine is all paranoid about the computer singularity and used your name as a source of his paranoia. Don't you think it could all be a bunch of hype? Awesome car/rocket/etc. stuff you do. Huge fan. The time frame is not immediate, but we should be concerned. There needs to be a lot more work on AI safety. And with all due respect to the Roomba dude, that is not a concern. Hi Elon, I currently work for Toyota Susho in Fremont, doing the wheel assembly for Tesla. I want to let you know how proud I am to be however minutely linked to such a powerful and positively influential company such as yours. Keep doing the good work, sir. You're an inspiration to not only myself, but countless others around the world. My question, you seem to have had to deal with a tremendous amount of adversity in a few of your ventures. Do you have any advice for those dealing with seemingly insurmountable adversity? There's a great quote by Churchill, "If you're going through hell, keep going." It seems you have an extremely proficient understanding of aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, software engineering, all various sub-disciplines, avionics, power electronics, structural engineering, propulsion, energy storage, AI, etc., etc. Nearly all things technical. I know you've read a lot of books and you hire a lot of smart people and soak up what they know, but you have to acknowledge you seem to have found a way to pack more knowledge into your head than nearly anyone else alive. Do you have any advice on learning? How are you so good at it? I do kind of feel like my head is full. My context switching penalty is high and my process isolation is not what it used to be. Frankly though, I think most people can learn a lot more than they think they can. They sell themselves short without trying. One bit of advice, it is important to view knowledge as a sort of semantic tree. Make sure you understand the fundamental principles, i.e. the trunk and big branches, before you get into the leaves/details, or there's nothing for them to hang on to. I'm a teacher and always wonder what I can do to help my students achieve big things. What is something your teachers did for you while you were in school that helped to encourage your ideas and thinking? Or if they didn't, what's something they could have done better? Thanks. The best teacher I ever had was my elementary school principal. Our math teacher quit for some reason and he decided to sub himself in for math and accelerate the syllabus by a year. We had to work like the house was on fire for the first half of the lesson and do extra homework, but then we got to hear stories of when he was a soldier in World War II. If you didn't do the work, you didn't get to hear the stories. Everybody did the work. Hi Elon, I'm already saving up for my Model 3. Can you share anything about the Model 3 that we don't know already? It won't look like other cars. Would you ever consider becoming a politician? Unlikely. What equipment and procedures will be required for refueling operations on Mars? Will they be designed to function autonomously for the initial unmanned test flight? Also, are there any plans to introduce a third variant of the ITS with just a large shuttle-like payload bay to allow for transporting bulkier cargo? We are still far from figuring this out in detail, but the current plan is 1. Send Dragon scouting missions. Initially just to make sure we know how to land without adding a crater, and then to figure out the best way to get water from the CH4/O2 Sabatier reaction. Number 2. Heart of Gold spaceship flies to Mars loaded only with equipment to build the propeller plant. Number 3. First crewed mission with equipment to build rudimentary base and complete the propellant plant. Number 4. Try to double the number of flights with each Earth-Mars orbital rendezvous, which is every 26 months until the city can grow by itself. SpaceX's current strategy revolves mostly around old-style rockets. Even if they are now approaching complete reusability, grasshopper rocks, has SpaceX looked into hybrid craft like the Sabre program happening in the UK, or look into the possibility of a space elevator, even at a thought experiment stage, in the way that Google and NASA have done? If you want to get to orbit or beyond, go with pure rockets. It's not like Von Braun and Korolev didn't know about airplanes and they were really smart dudes. Mr. Musk, how will you secure the first stage of the Falcon 9 to the barge when it lands? Gravity or some mechanism? Mostly gravity. The center of gravity is pretty low for the booster, as all the engines and residual propellant is at the bottom. We are going to weld steel shoes over the landing feet as precautionary measures. In order to use the full MCT design, 100 passengers, will BFR be 1 core or 3 cores? At first, I was thinking we would just scale up Falcon Heavy, but it looks like it probably makes more sense to just have a single monster boost stage. Previously, you've stated that you estimate a 50% probability of success with the attempted landing on the automated spaceport drone ship tomorrow. Can you discuss the factors that were considered to make that estimation? In addition, can you talk more about the grid fins that will be flying tomorrow? How do they compare to maneuvering with cold gas thrusters? I pretty much made that up. I have no idea. The grid fins are super important for landing with precision. The aerodynamic forces are way too strong for the nitrogen thrusters. In particular, achieving pitch trim is hopeless. Our atmosphere is like molasses at Mach 4. In your recent MIT talk, you mentioned that you didn't think second stage recovery was possible for the Falcon 9. This is due to low fuel efficiency of kerosene fuel and the high velocities needed for many payloads, high orbits like geostationary orbit. However, you also said that full reusability would be possible for the Mars Colonial Transporter launch vehicle. What have you learned from flights of the Falcon 9 that taught you A, that reuse of its second stage won't be possible, and B, what you'll need to do differently with MCT to reuse its second stage? Actually, we could make the second stage of Falcon reusable and still have significant payload on Falcon Heavy, but I think our engineering resources are better spent moving on to the Mars system. MCT will have meaningfully higher specific impulse engines, 380 versus 345 VAC LSP. For those unfamiliar in the rocket world, that is a super gigantic difference for stages of roughly equivalent mass ratio, mass full to mass empty. Hi Elon, I'll leave the technical questions to the experts. 1. Do you plan on getting any sleep tonight? And 2. How will you celebrate if the test is successful? Best of luck. Yes, but probably only a few hours. Party at Cocoa Beach. Has the Raptor engine changed in its target thrust since the last number we have officially heard of, 1.55 mlbf SL thrust? Thrust to weight is optimizing for a surprisingly low thrust level. Even when according for the added mass of plumbing and structure for many engines, looks like a little over 230 metric tons, 500 kLbf, of thrust per engine, but we will have a lot of them. Hello Elon, huge fan here. Question about the Mars Colonial Transporter. There's been a lot of speculation over comments about exactly how much mass you are hoping to send to the Martian surface with the MCT. Can you tell us how much cargo you would like to be able to land on Mars with MCT, not including the mass of the MCT itself? Goal is 100 metric tons of useful payload to the surface of Mars. This obviously requires a very big spaceship and booster system. Emily Shanklin indicated in late 2013 that the Raptor could be the first of a family of engines designed for the exploration and colonization of Mars. Could you elaborate on her wording? I.e., was she simply referring to a vacuum version and standard version? Or do you plan on building multiple methane-based engines with significantly different thrust and size specifications? Default plan is to have a sea level and vacuum version of Raptor, much like Merlin. Since the booster and spaceship will both have multiple engines, we don't have to have fundamentally different designs. This plan might change. Design life of Merlin 1D has been mentioned to be 40 cycles. Could you expand on what a cycle is? Is it just the start of the engine? There is no meaningful limit. We would have to replace a few parts that experience thermal stress after 40 cycles, but the rest of the engine would be fine. Overall, is the landing architecture of ITS booster and distances needed to be covered to be same as Falcon 9's? Boost back re-entry burn landing burn? Could you give us nuggets on what changes the final Falcon 9 version 1.3, you mentioned will have? Uprated engines obviously from 170k to 190k lbf, but what else? Is it mostly geared towards reusability over performance? Gwyn mentioned 2 weeks ago that F9 V12 will be reused only once or twice, while V1.3 should be reused up to 10 times. Can you talk about what are the limiting factors for Falcon 9 reuse? The big booster will have an easier time of things than Falcon, as the mass ratio of stages is lower and it will have a lower density. Net result is that it won't come in quite as hot and fast as the Falcon, so Falcon should be a bounding case on the big booster. Final Falcon 9 has a lot of minor refinements that collectively are important, but uprated thrust and improved legs are the most significant. Actually, I think the F9 boosters could be used almost indefinitely. So long as there is scheduled maintenance and careful inspections, Falcon 9 Block 5, the final version in the series, is the one that has the most performance and is designed for easy reuse. So it just makes sense to focus on that long term and retire the earlier versions. Block 5 starts production in about 3 months and initial flight is in 6 to 8 months, so there isn't much point in grounding testing Block 3 or 4 much beyond a few reflights. Hi Elon, ITS question. What SpaceX technology/material still requires the most development for ITS to be a success? Thank you. It used to be developing a new metal alloy that is extremely resistant to oxidation for the hot oxygen-rich turbopump, which is operating at insane pressure to feed a 300 bar main chamber. Anything that can burn will burn. We seem to have that under control, as the Raptor turbopump didn't show erosion in the test firings, but there is still room for optimization. Biggest question right now is sealing the carbon fiber tanks against cryopropellant with hot autogenous pressurization. The oxygen tank also has an oxidation risk problem, as it is pressurized with pure hot oxygen. We'll almost certainly need to apply an inert layer of some kind. If need be, we'll use thin shints of Invar welded together on the inside. I think one of the most shocking things in your ITS presentation for many people was the full-size carbon fiber tank SpaceX built. Can you tell us a little bit more about the design, construction, and role of that particular test article? Yeah, for those that know their stuff, that was really big news. The flight tank will actually be slightly longer than the development tank shown, but the same diameter. That was built with the latest and greatest carbon fiber prepreg. In theory, it should hold cryogenic propellant without leaking and without a sealing linker. Early tests are promising. We'll take up to 3/4 of burst pressure on an ocean barge in the coming weeks. Hi Elon, and many thanks for doing this today. What level of completion is the interior habitable area layout of ITS at, and when might we expect to see renderings of it? I think we need a new name. ITS just isn't working. I'm using BFR and BFS for the rocket and spaceship, which is fine internally, but we'll aim to release details of the habitation section when we have actual live mock-ups, maybe in a year or two. ITS spaceship capabilities question 2. According to your IAC presentation, the ITS spaceship has a budget of 7.5 km/s when returning from Mars to Earth, with 150 tons of payload. With a much smaller payload, it has a budget in excess of 9.0 km/s, which is amazing. Could this unprecedented amount be used to fly between Mars and Earth even outside the launch windows enforced by the synodic period, when payload mass is not a primary factor? It could be used for emergency purposes such as medical supplies / instruments and experts, or for other high priority but low mass cargo like critical replacements. Yes. We got a pretty good idea of what a Mars EDL looks like, but can you explain how the ITS and the tanker plan to do an Earth EDL? Having talked with you at IAC about the Mars reentry, we learned that there's very powerful thrusters that can handle attitude control. These work great for the Martian atmosphere, but what about on Earth? There doesn't appear to be grid fins, and the thrusters obviously have less authority here on Earth. So what's the trick? Thanks for your time. Good question. That wasn't shown at IAC. The spaceship and tanker would have split body flaps for pitch and roll. Probably just use the attitude control thrusters for yaw. Hi Elon, I've got 3 questions on the ITS vehicle specs. Can you divulge what the vacuum thrust ISP figures are for the sea level Raptor variant? Then, the ITS booster is able to hover. Will it ever use this capability to better ensure successful landing at the expense of some small gravity losses? Or is it hover slams all the way? What is the expected maximum acceleration that the ITS booster can withstand during entry/landing? Approximately 360 sec vacuum ISP and 290 metric tons of thrust. A high acceleration landing is a lot more efficient, so there wouldn't be any hovering unless it encountered a problem or unexpected wind conditions. A rocket that lands slowly is wasting a lot of fuel. Aiming for 20 Gs.